super happy all the time that we get together in these sessions. It's not so often anymore. There's a million things happening at G2i, but I'm super thankful to everyone who's here. I always tell you that the best gift that you can give us all is your time. And today you've given us that, so thank you so much. Super exciting. Today we're going to be delving into something that, Latisha and I just spoke about is one of the most common pain points that we actually see among developers. And that is, how do you actually communicate the real impact of your technical work? So the idea is we kind of want to move beyond the I built this with this to actually showing real value that you've created with your work life, right? So how are we going to do that? So that's the topic of today's session. And this session is also going to be a little different than the usual G2i community session that we do. So there are three things that I kind of wanted to emphasize. The first is this is interactive. So usually we would do a session and then we go to the Q&A at the end. But for this session, feel free to raise your hand. If Latisha asks questions, just jump in the chat. Anytime you want to add something to what she's saying, raise your hand. We'll unmute you, and then you can contribute to the conversation. However, the second thing is, I know, not everybody is super comfortable turning on their camera or jumping on the stage and speaking to everyone. If you don't feel comfortable, leave your questions and your reactions on the chat. I'm going to follow along, and anything that has to be brought up, I'll be bringing it up at the end of the session. And lastly, as I mentioned, this session is a little bit more interactive than what we usually do. So we're actually going to have breakout rooms in the middle. And during this breakout rooms, we're going to have a little bit of a workshop. So if you can, get your LinkedIn or your CV ready, because we want you to work on real examples that you can actually use. Okay, now, super excited. Let me introduce our presenter today. So Latisha McNeel is a development team lead with more than 20 years of experience in consulting and development management. She has led teams, provided strategic consulting, and deployed technology solutions both on mobile and web. I was looking at her bio and again was just super amazed because she's been a product development manager, senior web designer, UX architect. She's a teacher as well, a mentor. She has an MBA in IT management. She was just recognized with the Student Choice Award at 2U. And my favorite part about her is that she's a G2i community member and actually a mentor. She is the most active mentor in our mentorship program. She has helped so many developers in the community and even me. At some point, I was having some mentorship sessions with Latisha because I wanted to learn more about the technical world, and she's always just so generous with her time and with her knowledge. So I'm super excited to host her in this session where she's going to be helping us tell the story of our work in ways that actually resonate with the people who matter. So managers, interviewers, and real life stakeholders. Latisha, that's it from my end. Feel free to share your screen, and super excited with what you prepared for us today.
Awesome. All right, let me share. Hopefully there's no sharing problems today. That's always the fun part. All right, I think I've got the right thing shared.
Yes.
Always scary. Always the scary part. And of course, in true Zoom fashion, Zoom went away. So let me find that for a second because I like looking at people when I'm talking. It makes it easier for me personally. All right. Leaning into the discomfort, right? Hopefully you'll find this valuable. Thank you, Thea, for the great introduction. As she stated, this workshop is about closing the gap between what we build and the impact it creates, so you can tell your story confidently and clearly. So why this matters. The I built X with Y is not your contribution. A little bit of background about this. I have this conversation with almost every person I mentor, inside and outside, of, hey, can you take a look at my resume and tell me what you think? And I'm sure like you've read the articles that we need results driven, resumes that they want numbers on it and all of this stuff. But if you're like me, when you started out in this, when you're doing your projects, people aren't connecting those dots for you. And you can surface that through better questions, but there's also ways to kind of go back and hopefully derive that information for you. Additionally, I read a lot of resumes in my job or because I'm mentoring, and wait, I built X with Y, that's great. Everyone has built a dashboard, a CMS, an authflow, a checkout page. And if they've read the job description, they've all built it in React, JavaScript, HTML, Java, Go, Ruby, Python, whatever the tech stack is, right? So like, I really don't care anymore that you built a dashboard with React. No offense to you, that's great, but it doesn't tell me a lot. And it still matters because you need relevant tech experience, but it doesn't actually speak to your contribution, your impact, or the results you made possible. I built X with Y is not the same as showing what changed because of you. And then people read fast, not deep. When I'm looking at a resume, there's several different scanning patterns that we go through, right? And these, if you're on the front end, if you're on the UX side of these, you've probably looked at this before, because how do I design content for a web page? It's the same thing, but apply it to your resume, right? So I start, like, when I'm reading, when other people are reading, when recruiters are reading, spotted pattern and F search pattern is where they start. So it's a strong focus on headers, first few lines of the session. You want to left align your keywords and bullet start points. So put your results at the beginning, because if they're buried in the sentence or deep in the paragraph, they're not going to see it. So you lead with outcomes and open with what changed or improved, then explain how. And then the spotted pattern. So I look for specific keywords. So like when you're tailoring your resume to each job description, I go through and, you know, you've got a bank of keywords that pretty much mean the same thing, that different job descriptions use a little bit differently. So walk those out, because whoever's reading it is kind of scanning for those keywords. If they say TypeScript or they say JavaScript, they're not exactly equal, but I probably use both on the same job, and I can emphasize one over the other. I can emphasize leadership or mentorship, right? Because they're not exactly the same, but I probably did both in a job. And so that's the spotted pattern. Then the layer cake pattern, this is why you want all your section headings to actually be consistent as you're going down, because they're going to look at those section headings for where they're actually going for. And finally, if you've got their attention, they'll jump the commitment pattern. And this is where they want to read because you did something interesting. In those other three patterns, you did something to grab their attention where they want to give in, dig into it and give more than 3 seconds for it. So format is content. Don't overcrowd. Think in chunks with your entry points. And once they're invested, every word counts. This is when bad bullet points can cost you or great ones can win them over. So you're going to lead with results. Every bullet is a chance to earn attention. Every line on your resume is valuable. Recruiters skim, hiring managers glance. You can hook them or use them. Lead with those results. I'm gonna re-emphasize that. So what is impact? And this is where it gets hard, because you built a dashboard using React. You built an authflow using Java, right? What impact did it have? With customers, you could increase usability, trust, you could reduce churn. With business, you can raise revenue, reduce cost, or accelerate delivery. You've got your internal team where you can improve onboarding, fewer support requests, better handoffs. You've got your system with increased uptime, improved performance, or reduced latency. You've got your developer experience, which is also huge because that impacts the business line as well. If your developers can move faster and safer, it creates better products overall. So faster builds, better task coverage, reusable components. Your work may impact one of these or more, or may impact something I didn't even mention on here, but it is a framework that can help you reframe your task into a story of value. Who benefited and what changed? All right, so a rewrite example. Built a dynamic CMS with TypeScript and MongoDB. Is that exciting? Yeah.
Yeah, Latisha, I have a question. So when you showed the patterns of how people were scanning, something just caught my attention about, you know, bold and chunk content. I feel like I haven't ever seen a best practice of what actually to make bold. Is it the company or the title? What's your advice on that?
Yeah, so what I'm doing right now, which seems to be working okay, and I've seen other people do, is my titles are all consistent. I typically will bold or underline them, right? I use the same font throughout. The format that you're seeing in very blurry like things because I didn't want to post my resume up, and like that was actually one that a career recruiter gave me. So it is from a recruiter, career coach in that regard. The titles are bold, they're underlined. It's very plain. ATS systems do not like two columns. I still like them when I'm looking at resumes, right? I still like the prettier design, but like if you're sending those to an ATS system and you get that letter within 24 hours, you got rejected by ATS. It never made it past that system if you see that failed letter within 24 hours. Yeah.
Is that more to do with keywords and, the kind of things that it's scanning for, or is that a parsing failure? Like, what are you attributing that to?
So parsing failures for one, right? Like if you load your resume into like Greenhouse or any of those systems and it doesn't come up exactly right, you've got parsing issues that probably won't get past ATS, right? And then like I read stats that like you have to have between like 50 and 75%, 80% keyword match
Yeah.
to get past the 80 the ATS systems. So what I started doing, and I submitted like 100 resumes places a couple of years ago, one to 2 years ago now, right?
Mhm.
And I got maybe like 3 callbacks on those. I paused because that was exhausting,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I because I read something out in the wild, and I went more focused on it, right? And I now have you'll see it in my career, my job tracker. It's one of the things I've linked. Application tracker. It's one of the resources that I've linked. You won't see it in mine personally, but I started like A/B testing resumes, and I then only had to submit like 10 more, and out of those 10, got way more callbacks, like increased the percentage. But I did a lot more tailoring than what I had been doing before. So you'll also notice that I don't know if you can see my mouse on
We
this.
can. Yes.
There's a little bit of bold right here at the front. And what those are is I actually use that at the beginning to highlight the kind of summary or category of what it was. And like I said, there's places where don't lie. Absolutely do not lie. You will be found out for it 100%. Like, the worst thing, right? But use a thesaurus. Look at job description. Like some person's going to use front end web development, and another person might just say front end development, right? Those two things are the same thing, but if you actually match those words, you increase that keyword density.
Well, in a way, what comes to mind is like, so I've heard of a lot of like AI tools that help people expand resumes, which, ultimately makes the world a worse place because you have to compete with a bunch of bots. But at the same time, it's like when you say tailoring, do you mean in that like kind of rote automated sort of way, or do you mean tailoring like in a more personalized way where you like actually take the time to rewrite your resume and delete sections and add sections and emphasize, different things about your work? Um,
But I'm not deleting sections. What I do have, and this is one of the other tools that I've dropped in here, is I have a bullet bank or like a career log where I've gone through and I've listed out every project that I could think of, what the impact was, what mistakes I could remember, everything I could remember about every project I've done for the last 20 years. So I've got a lot to pull from, and I've gotten better because once I started doing this, I also just started keeping it up in real time. I will substitute out bullet points
mm,
entirely. I will remove a project entirely and drop in another one if it fits better with the story I need to tell for the job. And so like it at the beginning, my process for working with AI is I write drafts, I send it through AI, then I take it back down, I send it through Hemingway editor to reduce the reading level of it, and I personally do that one, and then I send it back through Grammarly, and then I give it one more pass myself. So
right.
it's a process, but it is an AI enhanced process that I'm using to get here. And then I send everything back through AI to find mistakes.
Someone in the chat asked if the one-page rule is still relevant with ATS systems.
Unfortunately, yes. I'm at 2 pages, and I actually reached out to some people and was like, hey, I'm struggling to keep this on 2 pages because I have a long, rich career history. And if I was applying for like C-suite positions, I could get away with more pages. But applying for software developer, 1 to 2 pages. And it depends on your career history. You can
And
get
you're
away
applying
with
for
2.
like, are you applying for like contracts and like individual things, or are you applying for like more full-time career builder type
At
roles?
the time I was applying for anything I could get. I
Okay.
needed a job.
Oh, don't we all? But like at the same time, are there differences in how a resume should present depending on how you apply? You know, whether you're applying for more like full-time positions where you're trying to be on a team and they're like expecting you to be there for 5 to 10 years, or you're just doing a 3-month contract. Are there like material differences there?
So I may not be the best to answer this, but I don't notice a difference. What I have noticed, like if I'm going for a contract job, I'm usually going for that with my business. And so I actually do something called a one-pager as like a bid. And they don't actually usually see my resume. If you're going for a contract job, you may want to do more project-based than linear-based. Or if you've done a bunch of contract jobs where it looks like you're job hopping, and now you're trying to apply for a full-time job, you might want to go more project-based. And you can search for formats on that. At least that's what I found. I would do more research too. And then as you heard, I A/B test my resumes. That doesn't mean I submit the same resume to the same job. That means that I track which resume is doing better and how long the response takes to get back, so that I can generally tailor it for same type of positions.
How much does aesthetics play a role? When you're trying to say, like, let's say you're more on the UI UX side, right? So you have those skills, you have those abilities to like put everything in its place and use columns and different colors. Is that the type of thing that recruiters don't like to see because they just want text, or the ATS system just literally just wants to parse it and it doesn't really matter what it looks like?
Yeah, so if you're applying for UX designer jobs, that is a completely different game than a software job. And you still got to get past the ATS system, which means you still got to have the most boring resume ever. Right. And if you're like me, what the career coach told me, go down to an 11-point font, which made my UX brain go, that's not readable.
Yeah. So I had
Decrease
some
margins,
friends,
do
I had some
all of
friends
that.
that hyper optimized their resumes. What they did was they made one resume that was strictly for the ATS. That was just like this
Yep.
horrible, like just Word document of like 10-point font with
Yes.
every keyword ever. And then what they would do is, I don't know how they would know when to do this, but they would swap in their real resume when they actually got engagement or traction or
Yeah,
something.
and there's usually a place for you to drop a resume with a better design, or like there's extra attachments you can have, or you can have it on your LinkedIn profile or on your portfolio. And so the UX UI positions, you have to really tailor those so that you can solve their problem. So we can have a separate conversation about that.
Oh, that's a good question there. Yeah.
Any more questions before?
Yeah, somebody in the text chat asked if LinkedIn should match a CV perfectly.
No,
With really good question, actually.
no. So I've deleted all the bullet points off my LinkedIn, and no one cares. That said, not the best strategy if you're looking for a job. You should generally be telling the same story, but LinkedIn can be a longer format. Your resume, you have limited space, so you want to tailor it to the job so it's not going to match 100%. But it should tell the same story. If I look at your LinkedIn and it's not telling the same story, you're going to raise red flags.
All right. Yes.
All right, so built a dynamic CMS with TypeScript and MongoDB. That's super boring. We can get it a little bit better. Built a dynamic CMS to enable non-devs to update marketing content. Now you're telling me a little bit more about why y'all needed the CMS and what problem you're trying to solve. Even better, though, is impact first. Reduce time to publish by 60% by building a dynamic CMS for marketing using TypeScript and MongoDB. How do you get there, though? You have to be paying attention to the business and you have to be asking questions. So you're here, you didn't ask those questions, you don't know, you don't have any statistics. You might be able to guesstimate, which is where percentages are really useful, right? Like if you know that it was taking marketing 10, 15 hours to publish something before, and you might know this just from offhanded conversations, and now there's somewhere around, 8 hours or 6 hours to publish content, and you know that because you've been in the business, you can guesstimate a percentage and get there, right? But that said, you're not always going to have those numbers, but you should start collecting them going forward. So you might just say reduce time to publish significantly by building dynamic CMS for marketing by using TypeScript and MongoDB.
Actually, the word significantly, is it better to say words like that, or just like make up a percentage number, like 200%, just like on vibes, and just, as long as it's directionally correct, it's better to do that.
So one, you might get asked what is significantly. The other, they may or may not ever ask about, but they may ask you to back up that 200%, right? So this goes back to the don't lie on your resume. Be ready to talk about it. If it's on your resume, be ready to talk about it.
Yeah, I can second that. I had an interview process recently where they called me out on these like percentages and like explain this. And so yeah, they do call you out.
Which is why I said you may be able to guesstimate if you heard rough stories, and then you can still talk about that. So one of the techniques that I use for this is retrospective 5 whys, right? So if I built a data visualization dashboard with React and recharts, why did I build this? Because customers needed insight into live data. Why did they need that? They were flying blind without metrics. Why? Because they couldn't track outcomes or optimize performance. Why? They needed transparency to make decisions. Why? Because they wanted to use these dashboards to adjust internal strategy. And then sometimes what else, right? And so you can do a retrospective on your bullet points to try to get to that enabled strategic decision making by delivering real-time data visibility through dashboards built with React and recharts. No percentage on this, but I hit things that they're looking for in that by making the sentence richer. And I probably now can talk about that because I did that work before. Great. So here's a couple of templates. I recommend grabbing a thesaurus along the way too, right? So you can achieve the result by doing what, using what tool, enabled stakeholder to outcome by what action, reduced cost time error by improvement leading to a metric, and then you may want to flip that sentence around. And you can feel free to change the verbs achieved, enabled, reduced. In the resources that I'll share, I actually dropped a long list of verbs that work well with resumes. And I think those will be shared after the fact. Great. So now we're going to go ahead and jump into the workshop that Thea mentioned. We want to try to rewrite our bullet points for impact. So pick 1 or 2 bullet points from your resume or project list. Use the 5 whys to try to get why behind the build and see how far you can go. See if you can find, oh, like I remembered when I built an LMS system, for instance, offhandedly, one of the stakeholders said, yeah, this saved us, XYZ money and cost. And that statement was just randomly thrown out, right? So try to pull from things, what other context did you hear while you were building this? Choose one of the rewrite templates. I guess we should Slack these out. A screenshot? Question mark?
Yeah, just take a screenshot, guys. I can't send a photo here.
Yeah, I'll take a screenshot and I guess send it in the thread for the meeting. I don't know. And then write your new bullet point. Make a copy of your resume. Start with a blank document. Use pen and paper. Use whatever medium you're most comfortable with. Right. That's the most important thing for systems.
Are we ready? I can do the breakout rooms, Latisha. I can send them to rooms. Should I do that?
Cool. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. And the thread's a little bit up, so I'm just gonna go ahead and drop it in the thread though. If you check Slack, the rewrite template will be in the thread. We're still waiting for a couple of people to come back. I'm still seeing people move around. While we're waiting, does anyone have a results-driven bullet they want to share? A rewrite?
Not a rewrite, but I could screen share and show some stuff on my resume that I'd like your input on if you want to do that in the main room.
Do we have time, Thea?
Yeah, we can take one, yeah.
All right. Roast my resume. So here's
One
mine.
job or something, Gabe, not everything.
Yeah. I mean, basically, I just like, for instance, when I had job roles, I put the tech stack in kind of like where the role was, time spent, what I did with it, and then the bullet points were mostly just like, hey, what did I do? What impacts? What was it for?
So 5-second impression. The first thing I saw was that you had multiple columns on that first page, which if like a cover letter, maybe that's fine, but like this isn't gonna parse. Pretty sure. Like maybe you've got different experience, but like it's going to probably not grab your email and phone number right, and then it's probably not gonna parse any of this. If you're dropping this into your bullet points, it's also wasted space that could get you to 1 to 2 pages.
You think? Okay, that's good to know. I mean,
and that was the first thing I noticed, and that's the first thing that would go through my head. Like those are literally off the top. Like if I'm reviewing your resume, I'm gonna go, wow, how did this make it through? This is wasted space, and then I'm just gonna scroll down.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm not even gonna bother.
So is a summary like useful, or just completely like just drop it? Who cares?
No, I keep the summary because I will scroll back up and read that. So now if you go back down, and that's your value proposition, so you want to keep that.
Because I did this mostly for keywords. Now I did this in Microsoft Word, so I'm assuming that this would parse, and I have put this in Indeed, and then Indeed did parse it.
Because you did it in Word, you've got a better chance of it parsing than if you're supplying a PDF. So I do know that. Driving sales engineering. So things that I see just to like pop out. This says head of development for web and AI. So I'm expecting you to have a lot of leadership, and I actually expect your impact and results to be there because you are a head. That means you're a manager. That means you should be in the weeds of knowing what your team is doing for results and impact. I see no numbers in those first 3 bullets, which makes me like, what are you doing as a manager?
Okay.
Yep. And then like driving sales engineering. So like you've got the good part at the front of the sentence, and then we get down to with AI in the mix. Helping new companies bootstrap and make forward-looking decisions. But like, what was the impact of you helping?
This is an agency, so this is an agency role, and for like reference, like I'm just kind of like I'm part of this company, not really as a salaried employee, but I'm helping like grow the company. So I just came in that like fractional basis, and so that's why I have such a lofty title, because that compensates for no pay. But basically.
So what's your impact of helping new companies bootstrap? Like what did they get anywhere? Like how much did you?
Basically, they come into the company, they're looking to build a new app. They don't quite know what they want. And then so basically the sales engineering will lead into this discovery phase. And then you just help them build the scope and build design and figure out what they specifically want versus, because they'll come in saying like, I want an AI product that does this and this and this, and they don't know. And that's
strategic advising to get companies off the ground.
Okay.
Resulting in XYZ number of companies launching new products.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to give some chance because there's somebody else who wants to share their resume as well. Nicholas, if you want, you can share your screen. I think you must have permission.
Thank you for the input on that, Latisha.
Let me share here. Share the screen specifically. I think I'll share the entire screen because I'm not finding just the window. Share. Can you see it now? Let me.
You're sharing WhatsApp though?
No, I just want you. Oh, I can't scroll. Oh, here.
It is peak.
Yeah, we see it.
No.
Yep.
I just start simple, like my contact info, then a summary, and then the experiences, basically.
Cool. So scrolling that fast, I can see some keywords, right? 4 pages. If I'm seeing 4 pages, my first question is going to be, do you have a PhD?
No, I just have MBA. I'm on the second. I have one.
Are you published?
No, I'm not a scientist.
Yep. So I would try to reduce the number of pages. On that, you've got bolded words, which will help call things out. And I see numbers. So like improved UI UX across platforms, reducing customer complaints by 25%. You might want to flip that around. So like reduce user complaints by 25% by increasing accessibility in UI UX platforms, right? So just rearranging that sentence a little bit will make it more scannable, and tells me the impact that you had first.
So I put the impact first and then how I impacted. And this one here is important because there are lots of elderly where I work, so elderly people and
Yep.
and handicapped people too. So they really needed this part.
Yeah, exactly. And see, that was your actually impact, which is why I also put accessibility earlier in the sentence when I rearranged that, because UI UX across platforms, like we're all improving UI UX across platforms, right? We're not all reducing user complaints by 25% through accessibility endeavors. That is a unique value that you had on that bullet. So I put the thing we're all doing last and the thing that's unique to you first.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Oh, I forgot this one. This one I were more like you said, like putting the quality for the accomplishment first in some points.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. And you've got some impact there. The complex UI requirements, what impact did that have? Because you've got Tailwind CSS and flat design principles like highlighted bold, but like we're all using Tailwind.
Oh, the impact is training the AI, right? Making the data more precise. Because I noticed as I worked, the first result the AI returned got a little bit better as I worked. They were like hideous at the beginning, but then I didn't have to make that big of a change to make them look better, you know?
Yep.
It worked.
So Tailwind's important for keyword purposes. It's not important for bolding. The impact that you just described for me should be included in that as well. Especially if you're looking for a new AI job. If you're not looking for a new AI job, maybe not. But then I would say like the complex UI requirements, what impact did that actually have? And I would build something along that rather than Tailwind, which is just there for keyword purposes.
Oh, okay. So always the impact that has to be.
Yeah, you really want to include that impact, right? Because like 100 other developers are going to apply with Tailwind on their resume. What sets you apart in using it?
Because I could see the AI getting better at returning stuff.
Yeah.
I could clearly see the last projects I delivered were much faster to make than the first ones. The first ones were like 12 hours doing something.
Yeah.
The last ones were like 5.
That's awesome. So give me a hook on your resume that brings me to a story when we're talking on an interview that can let you dive into that and really tell me what your value is.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'm
gonna have to interrupt. I'm so sorry because I want to be respectful of everyone's times, and I know that Latisha has a few more slides. So if it's okay, Nicholas, you can contact her on Slack. You can, continue your conversations there. And Latisha, I know you have a couple of slides, so we can wrap up the last couple of minutes if that's fine.
Oh, fine. I will stop sharing then.
Yes.
Thank you
so much.
Oh, Zoom didn't move that time. Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so tracking. To get all of this, to have your bullet points, to be able to substitute things out in your project, you need to be tracking, and I think some of you often are, right? impact may not be obvious at the moment, but it may come out in a retro. It may come out after the product launches and you see a news release, right? And so as you track along the way, you can really start to dig into and include that impact. Interviews often draw from the past 12 to 24 months. Though if you include something from 10 years ago and that's interesting to me, I may ask you about it, right? Don't put something on your resume you don't want to talk about. Most people are going to forget what they ship. So I've got this career impact toolkit. I made both a GitHub and a Notion. I personally like Notion for a lot of things. So there's a Notion thing that you can duplicate into your own Notion and have like a whole database set up for it. But if you just want plain markdown templates, I made those as well. And some of the things included are career log, reflections, project tracker per project, outcome notes, bullet bank, and I also included my skill inventory database in the Notion, as well as my application tracker that I made for tracking applications and being able to get metrics to see what's working and not. So I mentioned this before, but like your value proposition, this is one of the most powerful resume tools. And if you're UX, you've probably built value propositions for companies. Apply that same knowledge back to yourself, your brand, and your resume. It's not just what you do, it's the value you bring to the team. So I help who achieve what by doing in a way that is a differentiator, right? And say it out loud. This becomes the core of your summary section, your elevator pitch, your portfolio headline. So as an example, I help product teams ship accessible, user-friendly features faster by designing scalable front-end systems with React and TypeScript. This should be part of your summary, 1 to 2 lines. What unique value do you provide? And I'll tell you something, I used to include I started coding when I was 12. I don't include that ever, and really don't ever say it out loud anymore, because you know what? We all started coding when we were 12. Now, there is a difference of when I was 12 and when a lot of other people were 12, but I don't include that anymore. And so your story, lead with results, show the why, not just the what, keep a running log, and every bullet is a pitch. It is the conclusion of the story you want to tell. So you're going to drop this bullet line, and you're going to provide the supporting evidence that backs up that you actually did this. And you're already doing meaningful work, so this is how you help people see it. And then if you want to keep working on this, we'll drop this so you can have these links and get the Notion or the GitHub if you want. That's the end of my presentation. I did it quick.
Thank you so much, Latisha. That was amazing, super helpful. Really appreciate you, and I'm so sorry, everyone, that we can't go through everything. You know, we're in so many time zones doing so many things. But the two great things are, number one, Latisha has so many resources for us. I'm going to send it to everyone who expressed interest. I'm also going to send it on Slack. And the second great thing is she's on Slack, so you can always just message her if you have any questions. Nicholas, I'm sorry that we didn't get to finish everything that you asked, but she's really accessible. As I mentioned, she is the person at G2i who has mentored the most number of other engineers, so she's always super game to help people. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. That ends the session. We really appreciate you being here. And Latisha, thank you so much again. I hope you got something great out of it, and have a lovely rest of the day. See you all. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye, guys.